Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today to learn about our new Moving Towards Harmony module. Before we get started, I just wanted everyone to know I am recording this session, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions or share any comments. Those will be edited out of the final recording to keep your identity completely anonymous. I have dedicated some time at the end for a question and answer session. Oh, I see more people have entered the waiting room. Just let them in. Okay, super. So today we're going to dive into a module demo to learn about some key features and how to best facilitate them. But before doing that, it's important to gain a bit of context into the module's purpose by learning about the Moving Towards Harmony series that this module is a part of. So just as a super quick overview, the Moving Towards Harmony series is a collection of modules that covers the topic of gender-based violence, and it was created by Anishinaabe ASCII Legal Services in Thunder Bay. And this project aims to support young offenders in the justice system by using Indigenous restorative justice ideas and teachings. The primary goal of the program is to facilitate the journey towards healing from the impacts of colonial violence while embracing the wisdom of the 7 grandfather teachings, along with other Indigenous and non-Indigenous methods for healing and well-being. And the modules will really advance truth and reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples by challenging colonial narratives. It will allow people to examine the meaning of reconciliation and the role it plays in healing trauma. And it will also increase empathy, understanding, and respect for Indigenous teachings. So today we're going to review one of the modules in this series called Courage Through Accountability and Forgiveness, which specifically addresses the importance of taking accountability for one's actions without resorting to self-shame. It also guides participants to begin the journey of forgiving others who may have caused them harm. And the objective is to alleviate feelings of guilt and shame stemming from past actions in relationships where harm may have taken place. We'll head over to the Hub platform. Welcome to those who have joined. So we can find this module in the Youth Learning Portal. And this will be in the Peace and Justice theme. Under the module tabs, you can find this in the gender-based violence in the tables of contents. And as with all Hub modules, you have everything you need for facilitation, including your module guide, which equips you with the tools and background information and a script, which allows for a more meaningful and interactive experience.
Migration. Immigration and migration are two different things.
Oh, sorry. If everyone wouldn't mind just muting their microphones.
Travel and tourism.
Thank you. Okay, so here in the beginning part of the script, we have some background information that will support you in learning what you can find in the module in terms of goals, topics, and skills that your participants will be using. You don't have to review this part with your clients. This is just for you to know. And you have a bit of an introduction as well as the key elements that Hub modules usually have. And then we have the script, and this is what you will read out loud to participants for each page of the module. And you're given detailed instructions on what to do for each page. So this page here, the image is what your participants are seeing, and then you're going to read aloud the text for each page. And the text that is in the guide is essentially just additional information that pairs well with the module content. And it's really helpful for any discussion pages or maybe heavier pages that require a trigger warning. We've included all of that for you. And then we also have the client journal that is located on that module card. And each participant must have a copy ready for them to use before the module begins. This will be their resource for answering the reflection questions that are shown throughout the module. If you are doing in-person programming, we recommend you print the journal off ahead of time and provide a pencil for your client. But if you're doing virtual programming, like over Zoom, for example, you can save this to your device and send it to them, and they can fill in all of these input boxes on their device. I'll just scroll through the journal here to give you an idea of what it looks like. We will cover the take-home practice in the module demo. And then if you are in person with your client, it's recommended that you bring any colored pencils if you can. We include a color jam and a note section for anyone who prefers to color or draw while they are learning. Given the context of this module, it's maybe less likely that your clients would want to do that, but it is possible because it can help people feel safe and comfortable to have this kind of outlet. And you can also let participants know that they have some additional resources that speak to the topic of the module. So let's go ahead and take a look at the program together. So we begin by welcoming clients to the program, and if you want, you can let everyone know how long they will be here for. This module usually takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long the discussions go for. And you can also review what topics you'll be covering together. And please let everyone know that they don't have to participate in anything that could be potentially upsetting for them. Of course, we want to encourage everyone to participate as much as they can, but you can let them know that they're welcome to tell you if they're uncomfortable or triggered in any way, whether it be writing you a note or pulling you aside and letting you know ahead of time. Here we'll invite everyone to share their answer to the icebreaker question, which is to share their name and when they did something courageous. Some people might find this a bit difficult to answer, so it'll be helpful to have a definition of courage handy. So you could say something like, courage is when you face your fears and do the right thing, even though you might be scared or unsure. I'd also recommend providing some examples that they can choose from. So you can ask if they have ever stood up for someone that they care about, if they have ever apologized for hurting someone's feelings or ever tried something new, just to share a few examples. And here we can set our ground rules for the program. So everyone can share in these input boxes one thing that would make the space feel supportive for them. And we have a list of examples when you press this light bulb icon in the top right corner. I'd recommend reading these out and inviting everyone to choose their favorite. And in this first topic of the module, this is where we'll get everyone acquainted to the concept of courage. And as you're clicking through the definitions and reading them out loud, you can also give these examples of courage in this list. And throughout facilitation, you can encourage discussion by inviting them to share their own experiences and stories if they wish. For the journal moments, you have about 3 to 5 of these in every hub module, depending on the length. And for these, you're going to read out the instructions. And then you can read out the questions. And you can remind everyone that this is confidential and that you're here if they have any questions or need any clarification, but you're going to invite them to turn to that journal and write down the answers in a way that suits them best. They can either write or they can draw. I've had participants write song lyrics or poems, so you can let them know they can get creative with this. And in the gender-based violence series, we always include a quote at the beginning and some optional discussion questions for that quote. And something that we highlight a lot in this module is that accountability is not about blame or punishment, but instead it's about learning and growth and understanding that our actions have an impact on others and taking steps towards making things right. And here we share a couple examples about how we can practice accountability. So, for example, listening actively when someone shares their feelings, asking questions, and seeking understanding, even if we might disagree. Just skipping ahead slightly to showcase some of the key features of the module. I really like this activity. This will allow everyone to apply their learning so far, and you will be reading aloud this scenario. And participants will essentially be identifying if James has exhibited accountability in that scenario. And if the answer is no, they can share some ideas for how he could have shown accountability instead. So you can let everyone give this a try and share some suggestions. The facilitator guide has some suggestions as well if you need to kind of get the ball rolling and prompt more discussion. I really also love this piece on compassion. This page says that accountability stems from compassion. And before understanding how to hold ourselves accountable, we need to approach ourselves with love. And we need to understand that everyone is going through something difficult in one way or another, and we must acknowledge that ourselves and others have innate goodness and have strengths and gifts among the suffering. There are a few more pages that focus on the steps of taking accountability, but I want to move ahead a bit to forgiveness here, which is essentially the inner process of letting go feelings and thoughts of resentment, bitterness, and anger towards someone who has harmed us, including ourselves. And throughout the module, If you ever have your own stories or examples from your life that you are comfortable sharing about courage, accountability, or forgiveness, I always find that is helpful for participants to feel comfortable and learn a bit more context. It's always helpful to have that real life experience, and it will also help your clients feel a little bit more connected to you and that you can relate to them a little bit more. This is such a common human experience, learning the process of forgiveness. So I find sharing stories really helps. And I think this maple tree teaching is such a beautiful analogy for forgiveness, as it reads, "In the fall, the beauty of the maple tree is breathtaking. It's easy to want to hold on to that beauty, but the maple tree knows that it must let go of its leaves to move into winter. When the leaves fall, they create shelter and warmth for all the small creatures below the tree." So basically, just as the tree releases its leaves to transition into winter, forgiveness means letting go of the past pain and resentment to move forward, creating space for healing and growth in relationships. Now we reflect on asking others for forgiveness. I kind of see this page as a mindfulness activity. The text here invites compassionate self reflection on their feelings. So you can begin by emphasizing that everyone's emotions are valid, and the activity is designed to promote reflection and growth rather than guilt or shame. And you can check in here to make sure everyone is okay with this kind of self-reflection. And if not, I would recommend just going to this last part here and inviting everyone to say this out loud. And we have the same idea for this page on self-forgiveness. You can do this visualization activity if they're comfortable. Otherwise, it can be very effective to have them repeat this last part. "I acknowledge how I have hurt and harmed myself out of pain and confusion. I forgive myself." And then to conclude the module, we have a cleansing prayer that is located, I believe, on this page and in the journal as well. So they can do this when they would like to engage in more self-reflection on their own, since they will be taking the journal with them, ideally. And if you have time at the end, you can do this all together. And then we have one final discussion here where everyone will share a way that they will show courage in the next week. I'd recommend asking if anyone has any inspiration to initiate an apology or forgiveness with someone else, or by practicing self-compassion and self-forgiveness. This is optional, of course, but I always like to share my final thoughts as well, maybe something that I learned about myself in the program. And here I always like to share too that forgiveness and taking accountability is almost like a skill. It takes vulnerability and it takes a lot of practice, and it's okay not to be perfect the first try. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there are any questions at the moment, but in case anything comes up, either about this module or another module on the platform, I'm always available for questions through my phone or email. I will have a recording of this up on the platform in the professional development section under the module name. I'll leave my contact info on the screen in case you want to copy it down. And otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day.